Get Out of Your Head by Jennie Allen. Picture this. You're standing in a crowded church lobby. People everywhere. The usual hum of conversation. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then suddenly, a stranger walks up to you, her friendly smile melting away into something darker, more sinister. She leans in close and whispers words that send ice through your veins. "We're coming for you. You need to quit talking about us. We're coming for you." This wasn't a scene from a horror movie. This actually happened to author Jennie Allen at a speaking event, and honestly, it was just the beginning. Here's where it gets wild. Later that same day, while Jennie was on stage giving her final talk in this massive megachurch, the kind with backup systems for the backup systems, the power suddenly died. Everything. Lights, sound, screens, all of it just gone. And in that eerie silence and darkness, everyone heard it. A bone-chilling scream echoing from the hallway. It was the woman from the lobby. The pastor would later tell Jennie that in all his years there, the power had never failed like that. Not once. What Jennie didn't know in that moment was that this bizarre encounter was about to trigger an 18-month nightmare, a relentless war fought not in church lobbies or darkened auditoriums, but in the most terrifying battlefield of all, her own mind. Today we're unpacking her story and the game-changing insights she discovered, all captured in her best-selling book, Get Out of Your Head, Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. Fair warning, this isn't some fluffy, just think positive self-help book. This is a battle plan for the fight of our generation, the war for control of our minds. By the time we're done, you'll understand the surprisingly simple secret to breaking free from toxic thought patterns. And here's the kicker. You'll realize you're not some helpless victim of your own brain. You're actually a warrior with everything you need to win this fight. Ever had your mind turn into a complete war zone? Like, one negative thought pops up, then another one shows up to the party, and suddenly you're in a full-blown spiral. Anxiety cranking up, fear taking over, doubt screaming in your ear. Before you know it, you're spinning faster and faster into this dark place. Jennie Allen calls this the, quote, spiral of toxic thoughts, and chances are you know exactly what she's talking about. It usually starts innocently enough. A feeling creeps in, maybe sadness or insecurity. That feeling triggers a thought, I'm not good enough. That thought influences your decisions. Maybe you cancel plans with friends or give up on that thing you wanted to try. Those decisions shape your behavior, staying home, doom scrolling through social media. And that behavior messes with your relationships, leaving you feeling even more isolated and sad, which just restarts the whole terrible cycle. It feels completely out of your control, right? Like you're just being tossed around by this internal tsunami. And the research on this is actually pretty scary. The average person thinks over 30,000 thoughts every single day. And get this. Studies suggest that somewhere between 75 and 98% of mental and physical illness stems directly from our thought life. So yeah, the battle is legit, but where does all this come from? According to a therapist friend of Jennie's, whenever we choose to believe a lie about ourselves, it usually boils down to one of three core whoppers. I'm helpless. I'm worthless. I'm unlovable. Think about that for a second. Every insecurity you've wrestled with, every fear that's kept you up at night, every anxious thought that's ever hijacked your day, it probably traces back to one of these three fundamental lies. And these lies don't just mess with how you see yourself. They distort how you see everything. The world, other people, and most devastatingly, how you see God. They become this warped lens that colors your entire existence. For Jennie Allen, these lies were about to launch a full-scale assault on her mind. After that creepy church encounter, you'd think she would have been terrified. But weirdly, at first, the opposite happened. The reality of an actual spiritual battle made her faith feel more real, more alive than ever. She felt, in her words, wild with faith. But here's the thing about the enemy. He's sneaky. The attack didn't come as some dramatic explosion. Instead, it came as a slow drip of poison, night after night after night. It started with waking up at 3 a.m. every single night. At first, the thoughts were manageable, worrying about laundry, concern about one of her kids, normal mom stuff. But slowly, the thoughts grew darker, heavier. A terrifying question began haunting those silent 3 a.m. hours. Is God even real? For someone who had built her entire life around her faith, this thought was absolutely devastating. If God wasn't real, then everything, her work, her purpose, her identity, was a waste. Night after night, the spiral spun faster and faster. She felt her faith, the very core of who she was, crumbling from the inside out. She references this quote from Bible teacher Beth Moore about 3 kinds of pits we fall into: the ones we jump into, the ones we slip into, and the ones we're thrown into. Jennie knew, without a shadow of a doubt, she'd been thrown into this one. The darkness that owned her nights began bleeding into her days. She tried to function, tried to lean on decades of walking with God, but the passion was gone. Doubt steals hope. And without hope, life starts feeling pretty meaningless. Her mind became this prosecuting attorney, building an airtight case against God. She thought about all the hard things she'd walked through: a friend's devastating stroke, her sister's marriage falling apart, the crushing stress of launching a new organization. Was her confidence in God's goodness just wishful thinking all along? Then came the turning point, and honestly, it happened in the most unexpected place: a movie theater during Avengers: Infinity War. If you've seen it, you know that gut-wrenching ending where beloved heroes literally turn to dust and blow away, like they never even existed, like their lives meant absolutely nothing. Sitting in that dark theater, a profound terror gripped her. That's me, she thought. That's my future. To just disappear, to be nothing. The spiral hit rock bottom. For 18 straight months, more than 500 days, this was her reality. Lost in the darkness, convinced she was helpless, worthless, and unlovable. Until one moment, halfway around the world, changed absolutely everything. Jennie was on a trip to Uganda with 2 of her closest friends, Esther and Anne. She was emotionally wrecked, completely exhausted from pretending she was okay when nothing was okay. After breaking down in front of them, she finally spilled everything. The threatening woman at the church, the 500 sleepless nights, the gnawing doubt eating her alive, the terrifying fear that she'd lost her faith completely. When she finished, her friend Anne looked her dead in the eyes with this unwavering intensity. "No," Anne said firmly. "I know you. I know your faith." "Jennie, this is the enemy. This isn't who you are." Those simple words, "This isn't who you are," cut through the chaos like a laser beam of light. Because deep down, Jennie knew it was true. This dark, doubting, fearful person wasn't her. She loved God. She was a believer. And in that moment, she realized she had an enemy, and she'd let him beat her up for way too long. But God wasn't done yet. Earlier that same day in Uganda, something miraculous had happened. During those long, brutal nights back home, The only thing that had kept Jennie from completely losing it was reciting a passage from the Bible she'd memorized years before, Psalm chapter 139. Over and over in the darkness, she would whisper those words, "Where shall I go from your spirit?" Or, "Where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there." She was literally betting her entire life on those words being true, that there's nowhere you can go to escape God's presence. That morning in Uganda, her group sat down for a meeting with local officials, who asked if they'd join them for devotionals first. A man opened his Bible and began reading, his thick accent rolling over the familiar words. "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You discern my thoughts from afar." Jennie's heart stopped. He's reading Psalm chapter 139. He continued, "Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? Even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me." Tears poured down her face. Here she was, literally on the other side of the planet, in a tiny village she'd traveled a full day to reach, and a man who didn't even speak her native language was reading the exact words, the only words, that had been holding her fragile faith together. How could this God not be real? Anne's words on the bus were the final piece of the puzzle. "This isn't who you are." It was like scales falling from her eyes. She could see the truth again. Alone in the dark, the devil can whisper whatever lies he wants. But she wasn't alone anymore. She was in a fight, and in Christ, she had the authority and power to win it. This is where everything shifts. This is the discovery that has the power to change everything for you, just like it did for her. The real tragedy, she realized, wasn't just the spiral itself. The tragedy was that she didn't have to be spinning for 18 months, or 18 minutes, or even 18 seconds. There is a way to interrupt the spiral. The singular, powerful, interrupting thought is this: I have a choice. That's it. That's the secret. If you've trusted in Jesus, you have God's power living in you to choose. You're not a slave to your thoughts, your emotions, or your circumstances anymore. You have this God-given, God-empowered ability to choose what you think about. This isn't just positive thinking mumbo-jumbo. It's rooted in both Scripture and hard science. The Bible tells us to take every thought captive and to be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And modern neuroscience confirms this is actually possible. Our brains aren't fixed, unchangeable organs. They're constantly changing, constantly adapting. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. Dr. Dan Siegel, a psychiatry professor, puts it this way: where attention goes, neural firing flows and neural connection grows. What you choose to focus on literally physically rewires your brain. You're not a victim of your mind, you're its architect. The problem is most of us don't even realize we're in a battle, let alone that we have weapons to fight with. We've bought into the lie that we're helpless. But Jennie Allen is here to tell you that you're a warrior, and it's time to learn how to fight. Her book lays out this kind of basic training for your mind. It identifies 7 key enemies that create our toxic spirals and gives us 7 powerful choices, our weapons, to defeat them. The first enemy is distraction and noise. We're drowning in a world that constantly screams for our attention. Social media notifications, news alerts, music, endless to-do lists. We use busyness as an escape hatch from silence because, let's be honest, in the quiet we might have to actually face ourselves. And we might have to face God. The lie whispers, you'll feel better if you just stay distracted. The weapon against this is the choice. I choose to be still with God. In stillness, we plug back into our power source. It's where the spiral stops dead in its tracks, which is exactly why, as Jennie says, all hell is against us meeting with Jesus. But the science backs this up too. Even just a few minutes of quiet meditation can physically alter your brain chemistry, decreasing anxiety and depression. The second enemy is shame and isolation. This enemy whispers the most devastating lie of all. If people really knew you, they'd run for the hills. Shame drives us to hide, to build these massive walls around ourselves, to believe we have to solve everything alone. It creates this awful self-fulfilling prophecy, where our isolation just proves to us that we really are alone and unlovable. The weapon is the choice. I choose to be known. Humans were built for connection. Our brains are literally hardwired to connect with others through things like mirror neurons, which help us feel empathy and connection. Jennie shares this powerful concept from her church. Say the last 2%. It's that one secret you hold back, the thing you're convinced would make everyone abandon you. She tells this story about a friend who confessed an emotional attraction to a coworker. The moment she said it out loud to a trusted friend, the attraction lost its grip on her. Darkness can't survive in the light. The third enemy is fear and anxiety. Welcome to the land of what if. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if the absolute worst thing happens? Anxiety, Jennie explains, is basically your brain's fear network getting stuck in the on position, trapping you in worries about a future that may never even happen. The weapon is the choice. I choose to surrender my fears to God. We fight what if with because God. Because God takes care of the lilies and feeds the birds, we don't need to freak out about tomorrow. The Bible tells us to focus on whatever is true. And here's the truth. Most of what we worry about never actually happens. We have to interrupt these phantom fears with the reality of a God who's actually in control. The fourth enemy is cynicism. This is the belief that people can't be trusted and life won't work out. It's a defense mechanism born from past hurts. We throw up this wall of sarcasm and pessimism to protect ourselves from getting hurt again. But in the process, we rob ourselves of joy. The weapon is the choice. I choose to delight in God. The antidote to cynicism is awe. When we let ourselves be interrupted by beauty, a stunning sunset, an incredible piece of music, an unexpected act of kindness, it yanks us out of our self-focused bubble. It reminds us of a creator who's good and trustworthy. Cynicism and genuine worship can't coexist in the same heart. The fifth enemy is pride and self-importance. Our culture is constantly screaming at us to be great, build our brand, promote ourselves. The lie is, the more self-esteem I have, the better life will be. We become the center of our own universe, constantly justifying ourselves and blaming everyone else when things go wrong. The weapon is the choice. I choose to serve God and others. Real joy isn't found in being awesome, it's found in forgetting ourselves. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's this incredible freedom that comes from realizing your only hope is Jesus, so you can finally stop trying to be your own savior. The sixth enemy is victimhood. This mindset says, I'm completely at the mercy of my circumstances. We fixate on how unfair life is. We complain constantly. We blame everyone and everything. This keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-pity and unhappiness. The weapon is the choice. I choose to be grateful. Jennie tells this great story about her friend Brooke, who absolutely hated her retail job until she started using her commute to pray and thank God. Her entire perspective shifted. She started seeing her job not as this awful burden, but as an opportunity to love people. Gratitude is genuinely a superpower. Neuroscience shows it releases dopamine in your brain, making you happier and healthier. A grateful brain actively hunts for more things to be grateful for, creating this upward spiral of joy. Finally, the seventh enemy is complacency. This is that subtle whisper saying, I can do whatever I want. I deserve to check out, to numb myself. We drift toward comfort and away from purpose. We binge-watch shows, scroll endlessly, and wonder why we feel so hollow inside. The weapon is the choice. I choose to seek the good of others. We weren't built to live for ourselves. We were made to be active, purposeful participants in God's bigger story. The Bible tells us to run with perseverance the race marked out for us. As we run, as we serve, we have to fix our eyes on Jesus, and when we do, our own sins and distractions start falling away. Purpose is the cure for passivity. These 7 choices are our training regimen, and here's the most mind-blowing part of all. Every single time you make one of these choices, you're doing way more than just changing your mood. You're physically restructuring your brain. Jennie shares this incredible scientific fact. Inside each of your 86 billion brain cells are these tiny structures called microtubules. Think of them like a construction crew. With every thought you think, this crew gets to work, building actual physical scaffolding to support that thought. Want to know how long it takes for a single thought to create a brand new physical structure in your brain? 10 minutes. From the moment you choose a new thought, gratitude instead of victimhood, surrender instead of fear, to the moment that thought has physically, scientifically, undeniably changed your brain, only 10 minutes pass. If you've spent a lifetime building highways of negative thinking, you're only 10 minutes away from starting construction on a new road. This is the power you've been given. This is the hope at the heart of this book. You train your mind, day by day, choice by choice. You build new neural pathways. And when life's storms hit, when the pressure's on, you'll do what astronaut Shane Kimbrough told Jennie he did when his space mission got unexpectedly extended by 2 months, leaving him stranded far from his family. When she asked how he coped with that, he said 4 simple words. I trusted my training. This is our training. So that in those moments of crisis, we can trust it. We can get out of our heads and into the life we were actually made to live. The journey builds to this powerful scene at Baylor University, where Jennie challenged a stadium full of students to bring their secret struggles into the light. One by one, they stood up, shouting out their deepest pains: dishonesty, pornography, suicide, and then declaring together in one unified voice, "It no longer has power over me. It no longer has power over this campus." That's what it looks like to get out of your head. It's realizing that your identity isn't your struggle. You're a child of God, your light, and you're here to set other people free. It's just like Peter in the Bible, stepping out of the boat into the storm. As long as his eyes stayed fixed on Jesus, he could literally walk on water. The moment he looked at the wind and the waves, the circumstances, the fears, he started to sink. Winning the battle for your mind comes down to one thing: where you fix your gaze. The enemy wants you focused on literally anything but Jesus. Because when you get single-minded, when your thoughts are consumed with Him, you become dangerous. You start walking on water. So what do we actually take away from this wild journey? For me, the most powerful lesson in Get Out of Your Head is this beautiful fusion of radical responsibility and profound grace. The message isn't try harder, it's train smarter. It gives us the dignity of choice, reminding us that we're active participants in our own mental and spiritual health, not just passive victims getting tossed around by our thoughts. In a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, especially when you're young and navigating the pressure cooker of school, friendships, and figuring out who the heck you even are, this book is a genuine lifeline. It provides a practical, actionable roadmap for managing all that internal noise. And the idea that you can physically rewire your brain in just 10 minutes? That's not just a cool science fact. It's a declaration of hope. It means no matter how deep those grooves of negative thinking go, a new path is always immediately available to you. You're never truly stuck. The book brilliantly reframes the spiritual life not as this rigid set of rules to follow, but as a battle to be won. And winning isn't about achieving some impossible perfection. It's about choosing where you focus. It's about knowing that when you stumble, like Peter on the water, there's a hand reaching out to save you, asking gently, "Why did you doubt?" If there are a few practical things you can do today to start applying these principles, let them be these. First, practice the interruption. For the next week, just notice when you're spiraling. When you feel that familiar tug of anxiety or self-criticism starting up, pause and say to yourself, "I have a choice." You don't have to fix everything right away. Just acknowledging that you have a choice is the first, most powerful step. Second, pick one new thought. Choose whichever of those 7 "I choose" statements resonates with you most right now. Maybe it's, "I choose to be grateful." For the rest of today, actively hunt for just 3 things to be grateful for. A beautiful day, a good conversation, your favorite song. Write them down. Notice how this small act of shifting your attention changes your internal weather. And third, take the first step out. Break that cycle of isolation. Send a text to a trusted friend or family member and share one small, manageable struggle. Something like, "Hey, I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed with everything right now." It doesn't have to be your deepest, darkest secret. Just practice flexing that muscle of being known. That was a summary of Get Out of Your Head by Jennie Allen. We've explored the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a photograph of an incredible feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't actually taste it. The real transformation happens when you sit down and experience the meal for yourself. This book is packed with personal stories, biblical wisdom, and a profound sense of hope that you can only fully experience by reading it. If anything we've talked about has sparked something in you, I really encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about collecting new information. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you live inside your own head. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring life-changing ideas from some of the world's most brilliant minds, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss our next deep dive into another incredible book. Let's keep learning and growing together.